Welcome to the Patron Saints of Pop Culture podcast. I'm Miguel Covarrubias, and today I'm trying something new. We're going to talk about what went wrong and how to fix a piece of pop culture that, in my opinion, had something decent to talk about, but ultimately failed at saying anything because it was just so poorly written. Let's talk about what went wrong with and how to fix Wonder Woman 1984. This is a special trial episode just to see how you all like this, and please let me know if you do. And I will write and record more of these for you. I'll let you know how to do so at the end. In this episode, we'll talk about MacGuffins, to camp or not to camp, how romantic relationships diminish the character value if done improperly, and finally, I'll give you the rundown of how I would rewrite Wonder Woman 1984 to make it a better movie, in my opinion. If you've listened to the show before, you know we usually review and summarize here, but not going to happen this time, as we are spending this time to go over what actually went wrong with this movie. So, what did go wrong? Let's start with the Dreamstone, the big MacGuffin of the WW84 movie. DC movies have a big problem with MacGuffins. We saw this in Justice League, Dawn of Justice, Green Lantern, and so on. But just what are MacGuffins, though? As Alfred Hitchcock once said, the MacGuffin is a thing that spies are after, but the audience don't care. In fiction, a MacGuffin, sometimes called MacGuffin, is an object, device, or event that is necessary to the plot and the motivation of the characters, but insignificant or unimportant to, or irrelevant in and of itself. Here in WW84, the Dreamstone is a huge MacGuffin. It's even called out as such by both Diana and Barbara as an insignificant citrine, which makes this a double-crossed MacGuffin, and does not make it any better to the storytelling of this movie, as this MacGuffin also becomes a George Lucas version of the concept. One of the characters of the film is the MacGuffin. It is still insignificant to the audience, and the fact that Max Lord is a very two-dimensional villain makes it so much worse. He has no driving motivations other than power and wealth. This used to be an alright screenwriting tactic, but as we learned from the Joss Whedon-driven Marvel early era, this made for far less than enjoyable films. Granted, they were still on that spectacle level of entertainment, but they were horribly cloying, like a chocolate bar dipped in sugar. All flash and no bang. Don't get it twisted, I'm not saying that they aren't the foundation for what the MCU would become. They just learned from their mistakes and made something better, which unfortunately could not be said for the second outing for Wonder Woman. Which brings me to the next big misstep for Wonder Woman 1984. The camp. I mean, I get it. I know that people enjoy the campiness of some pop culture. How the whole decade of the 80s was camp in and of itself, though I would argue we as a culture have evolved past the use of camp in our pop culture. There is a reason why our Batman movies don't look like Adam West version of the 1960s anymore, or even the Tim Burton Batman of the 1990s and early aughts. Why our Star Trek doesn't look like the original series anymore. Aside from the whole opening in Themyscira, which didn't repay the theme in a satisfying way, the entire thing was packed with camp. The second opening of the movie with the burglars, I say this as a question because I couldn't understand why these burglars were so, not burglary. Honestly, they just seemed like four bored white guys who got some prop guns and very half-assedly were like, hey, you know what would be fun? Robbing the black market antiquities from a jewelry store in the mall. Linda Carter's Wonder Woman was all camp, and there are honestly better ways to honor her than making the entire movie that, and giving her a brief cameo in the mid-credits scene. This, I think we can trace back to the writers. This is not necessarily on Patty Jenkins, completely. If you look at the resume for those who actually wrote the film, it just screams camp. Not sure why they didn't bring back Alan Heinberg and Jason Fuchs, who did an excellent job with the first film, But the switch over to Jeff Johns and Dave Callahan was a bad move. These two are best known for Justice League, The Green Lantern, The Expendables, and even more cringy is seeing that they're working on the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse follow-up. Patty Jenkins is also credited as writing the screenplay for WW84, but I'm thinking she didn't have a whole lot of input, as her interviews from the first Wonder Woman film show that she knows better. The other two have only campy credits to their names. And that is what this movie was. Camp. I think camp plays to the lowest common denominator in the audience. And quite frankly, that's not the average movie consumer. We have done better. We are capable of better. I don't think camp should be the default. Which brings me to the last piece of what I think went wrong with WW84. The Steve romance. If we recall from back in 2017 when Kathy and I talked about the first film, we really did not like the fact that Diana slept with him. There was no romance development between them. It was more of a relationship of convenience and since he's there and we get along, let's do it. Yes, it allowed for the built emotions when he sacrificed himself in the end of the movie, but she wasn't like, oh my, that's the love of my life up there. She kind of moved on from the scene with Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne when he shows up in the bookend of the story. I think forcing more feelings on that relationship created a downgrade to Diana's character. She was a strong woman of conviction, not only in the first movie, but in the horrid DCEU movies as well. She wasn't dependent or reliant on Steve's character at all to do her thing. Suddenly, almost 70 years after the fact, she is? That doesn't at all make sense for her. Or for the screenplay. 70 years is a long time. It isn't in the grand scheme of things for Diana, but still in human terms, she's already watched humans she cares for grow old and possibly quite a few pass away. She's probably learned a lot over that time. Yeah, she may still have feelings for Steve, but not as much as they tried to portray in this movie. She wasn't a lovesick adolescent, nor should she be in her second movie, is all I'm trying to say. How to fix Wonder Woman 1984. Okay, so this is my first attempt at rewriting a bad film, so bear with me as this will be a learning experience for everyone. Let's start where all good films should start, the opening. Let's just toss out all of the Themyscira section. Yeah, it looked cool, but it didn't serve the plot at all. Instead, let's open upon the gods and the reason why the Amazons had to leave to Themyscira. You can even introduce the Golden Eagle armor sooner and give more context to the god-bestowed relics. We have the Amazons making the Golden Eagle armor for Asteria, and you can have Ares in the film as a tie-in to the prior film. Let's have him colluding with Apathy to destroy the humans with their own hubris. Apathy can come up with the idea for the Dreamstone, and we can watch as a brief montage would show how the Dreamstone led to the demise of the Roman Empire and the Mayan Empire, instead of hearing about it when Wonder Woman does. That way the Dreamstone is given a bit more importance to the audience and sets it up as a destructive yet powerful relic, giving the audience a sense of foreboding when it's reintroduced to society in the 1980s. Overall, this new introduction would only take about 15 minutes to get the audience up to speed for the rest of the film. You can then bring back the mall scene, this time instead of being the incredibly cheesy homage to malls, which we didn't need, we can introduce Max Lord as the antagonist in a much more storytelling-friendly fashion. Let's have Max Lord's struggling business, Black Gold, be the jewelry store in the mall with the black market antiquities being his side hustle. We make this so that it's not thrown away and gives him access to the relics, which is what he's after. Pedro Pascal is a much better actor than what was given to him. He'll be able to do complex. Max Lord is attempting to remake Black Gold name instead of the abusive family relationship shown at the very end of the movie. You can do this in an Iron Man 2008 style exposition commercial. This commercial, rather than making his con man question jacket style infomercial, make it an apology and a grand reopening, but make the date 1983, and we'll talk about why that is in just a minute. We're going to borrow from the comic books for Max Lord's backstory. His father was a good man and strove to be a good man. When he discovered that his company was responsible for the carcinogens in the environment, he took his own life for causing so much destruction in the world. This happened when Max was a child. We can make Black Gold the company that was responsible for the lead in the gasoline from their refined oil. This is an actual event that happened in our own reality, so we wouldn't need to expound on it too much. And the commercials show that Black Gold struggled after that time and that it sold off many of its oil holdings, and instead refocused its branding to the jewelry, as Max Sr. also found gold and jewels along with the oil. We made this commercial for the previous year due to the fact that this is the last remaining chain of the Black Gold name. Instead of Max being a deadbeat, let's have him be a family man. The artifacts in the back were from the original Black Gold Industries. They're leftovers from his father that he packed away. One of those happens to be the Dreamstone. The robbery happens with mask-wearing robbers who are actually invested in this robbery. They know about the artifacts in the back that Max Jr. has been slowly trying to sell off to alleviate his debts. He is reluctantly doing this as he wants to be a good man like his father, but he still harbors a vengeful rage towards the world for taking his father from him. Max is present at the robbery and he tries to stop it. One of the burglars holds up the Dreamstone and says, "I wish you wouldn't do that," which makes Max stop. We also changed the special effects to make the stone glow when somebody says, "I wish." When the wish is granted, one of the other burglars accidents into a panic button, sending off alarms, which triggers the Wonder Woman appearance, and the fight can play out the same way, but make the burglars in masks and the one who wished on the Dreamstone be taken down first and hardest as his payment for the wish. We are going to keep the payment for the wish as the only rule from the original, because they barely stuck to that rule to begin with. Wonder Woman is working with the authorities to get the mess cleaned up, and they discover the relics in the back room of Black Gold, landing Max in a bit of hot water. We have a shift of charge from optimistic to pessimistic for Max over the course of the scene. The next scene is the police station. Diana is given her statement, and we establish a friendship she has with a detective. The detective trusts Diana and is trying to get help figuring out where the relics are from and what laws Max may have broken. As it's not easily identifiable, they'll need to let Max go with the whole "don't leave town" thing. On the way out of the station, Max recognizes Diana from one of his dad's pictures. You can even throw in the photo from the first movie, making Max Sr. having taken the photo or be in the photo if you would like. It doesn't really matter. Max Sr. knew Diana, and this collection gives Max Jr. a path to follow. He then pleads with Diana to have the police release the relics as she knew Max Sr. and knew that he was a good man. She can then ask what happened to him as she lost touch with him. Max Jr. can then relay the backstory in a natural, non-exposition sort of way that can expand on what the commercial wasn't able to show. Diana says that she'll have to see what she can do. She goes to talk to the detective that she has a friendship with, and the Dreamstone catches her eye. She's not fully aware of why, but it calls to her. Her lasso begins to glow at her side, and she touches the Dreamstone. When she does, she gets a vision of Ares, which causes her to drop the Dreamstone. The detective asks what's wrong, and Diana brushes the detective off. Diana convinces the detective that the relics may be legit, and the matter of selling them is more of a jurisdiction of the SEC. They release the relics to Max with the note that he will be hearing from the SEC. You can throw in some bathos here if you want. The scene changes from a negative to a positive for Max as he's released, but you can have the relics packed in crates as he has no way of getting them home other than his wife's car, which can't hold all the crates. So there's a little bit of humor in that. The last scene of Act 1 will be Max at home, having just had dinner with his family, and maybe a joke or two with his kid. Just an aside, Max didn't give a crap about his kid in the original movie. Why is he all of a sudden going to care at the end? Sorry, back to the rewrite. He gets into a fight with his wife about the relics being robbed, and their relationship is strained, but you can see that they are together and committed. The fight is more about his struggle to repair his father's legacy and the underlying rage of the world. After they calm down, Max goes to the garage to go through the relics and finds the Dreamstone. He also finds his father's pictures, including one with Diana and Steve. He saw the Dreamstone work, which is why he wants to try it out. He figures that he could get more information from Diana or Steve. He figures that Steve would probably be the safer bet and wishes Steve back into existence. The payment for this wish is his relationship with his family that we have established already. After Steve materializes in his garage, we fade to black, ending Act 1. Act 2 opens with Diana looking at her photos and reminiscing about Max Sr. and her time in World War I. The vision of Ares has her unsettled, and she thinks that he may be back. She goes to talk to the Golden Eagle armor and ask the thought of Asteria if it's possible that Ares is back, and what the deal with the stone is. The empty armor can't talk back, obviously, and she doesn't get answers she wants. She says something like, "I need real friends." And we need to establish that Diana resents having to sacrifice her personal life to take care of society at large. Having to find out about Max Sr. from Max Jr. was the first hint of this. By the way, we're changing the theme of the film to be about human connection. Diana intercepts a call on the scanner of a naked man running down the street in a residential neighborhood. She sighs heavily and puts on the tiara. Scene 2 opens with Max questioning Steve about the stone and Diana. Steve is completely nude, because why would a stone manifest clothes? Steve doesn't know anything about the stone, but he does know about Diana. He doesn't want to tell, though. Why would he? Max wishes that he would tell the truth. As he's frustrated, he yells this last wish. This brings his son down to the garage door to see his father yelling at the naked man in the garage. The Dreamstone isn't limited to one wish. This was something from the original movie that they didn't lay out well enough, so we're just tossing it out. Steve then tells all about Diana, Themyscira, and the Amazons. He asks Steve if there was a way to contact the gods of Themyscira to, give him more power or whatever. Steve tells him that he doesn't know, and Max gets upset and throws something at Steve. Steve says that he can't lie. At the sound of whatever it is crashing to the ground, Max's son yelps and runs back to his room. Max calls out and runs after him. Steve grabs the Dreamstone and runs out of the garage and down the street. Cut to Diana. She's doing her running jumps in her costume, and she arrives on the street to find Steve. No body swap Steve, because why? Also, did anyone realize essentially that dude would have had a few days lapse of memory with some major bruises and, weird things all over his place? Anyway, back to the story. Diana looks around and takes Steve away. Scene 3 can be that montage of clothes trying on for Steve. If you want to do an homage to 80s movies, you can do this at the mall as well. Steve tells Diana about the Dreamstone and how it made him tell the truth and must be the way that he was back. Diana discovers the writing of the gods on the stone. She must return to Themyscira to find out more. Steve asks why she hasn't been back. Diana says that she's vowed to protect humans, and if she went back, she may not be able to fulfill that. She says that her mother kept the truth from her about her true nature to protect her, but she fears what else her mother may do to protect her. She says that it also is nearly impossible to find her way back, since, Themyscira is kind of cloaked. Steve says it's not impossible and holds up the Dreamstone. Diana says that she can't use it. It may be tied to Ares. Steve tells her that it can't be, as she defeated him long ago, and we can keep the element of giving up what you want for the people that you care about, self-sacrifice element of the original. Though, through more convincing, Steve finally wins, and Diana holds the stone and wishes she knew how to get home. Then we can keep the silly invisible jet origin scene, though between the previous scene and this one, we have Max spotting them leaving the mall. Let's call this the next day, which is why Max was at the mall. Max follows them to the airport. It's going to take place at the airport this time instead of at the Smithsonian with fully gassed up jets, because why? So, anyway, at the airport, in long-term parking, Steve wanders away from the car to stare at the advances in aviation made in the last 70 years that he's been gone. Diana leaves the car to go stand with him and chat about what he's missed. Max sneaks into the car, grabbing the stone while their attention is elsewhere. Then we can throw in the invisible jet stealing thing. Max returns home and wishes that his father's legacy, the store, was a success. The stone lights up, but nothing changes around him. He walks into his house, and his wife is on the phone and looks up. "Hold on, he's right here," she says, handing the phone to him. The store says that it's the store, she says, with disdain. He incredulously answers, then finds out the store has had a run of luck, so many people buying jewelry that he needs to, get down there and restock the supplies. As he hangs up, his wife gives him a withering stare. He looks up at her to explain that he has to go. She asks why their son says that he was fighting with a naked man last night. He starts to explain, but then says that he doesn't have time right now. He's got to go get to the shop. She states that he better find the time right now because if not, she's leaving. Well, it may seem like a bit of escalation. We know that this part is part of the payment for his wishes. He says that, "I wish you would be more understanding." "Oh, I understand," she says, "and I understand that we can't support this, whatever this is, anymore." She storms deeper to the house, yelling to their son that he needs to pack, that they're going to Grandma's for a while. Max yells after them, "I'm doing this for you." And she yells back, "No, you were doing it for you. You've always felt the world owed you for taking your father, and you're trying to take what's yours." Blah, blah, blah. At this, Max implodes, storms out, and heads to the mall. Meanwhile, Diana navigates Steve down to the area of Themyscira that he can land. The Amazons come to meet them. It's a tearful reunion for Diana, and she tries to explain to her mother why she's been gone so long, the battle with Ares, and the Dreamstone. She tells Diana what she knows of the relic and says, come and she'll show her. They have another book that describes the relics and the gods, and she tells, about the opening scene, which we already knew about. Diana exclaims that the relic is incredibly dangerous and Apate must be using the Dreamstone as a trickster god. "If this is Apate's work, this is something that you need to handle," says Diana's mother to her. "Because I'm the god killer?" Diana asks. "Yes, but so much more. Show me what you have done." Diana wraps a lasso around her mother's arm, and she touches Diana on the face. Here it can show clips of action from the first film and things yet to come from Dawn of Justice and Justice League. Diana looks into her eyes and can tell something's wrong. "What did you see?" she asks. Her mother says there are difficult times to come. Now we can add more dialogue. Obviously, I'm just throwing in dialogue, just to kind of fill out the plot a little bit. Back in the U.S., Max arrives at the store with cash registers flying. Well, not literally, of course, in his store. He heads back to his office to make calls to his suppliers. After he sits down and begins dialing, suddenly entering his office is Kristen Wiig recast as Apate. Because honestly, Cheetah was a horrid addition to this film. I love Kristen Wiig and I think she is underutilized in Hollywood, but Cheetah was horrible. Giving her this role allows her to play a little bit more. She can be a trickster god of lies, and I think so much better than Cheetah. Back to the story. We go through the whole "who are you" thing. She tells him that she is his every dream come true. She implores him to wish more supply to the store. One more wish couldn't hurt. Max looks at her. "How do you know what this relic does?" Apate laughs. "Are all men this clueless?" "Why, I made it, Maxwell." And they have a bit more back and forth as she convinces him to be her pawn. He eventually wishes more. As he does, the store gets a phone call about his mother in the hospital, and she's taken a turn for the worse. Back on Themyscira, Diana and Steve find that the stone is no longer with them. They realize that Max must have somehow gotten it back from them, and could have wished all sorts of things into existence in their absence. They board the jet and head back to the States. When they arrive, things have changed. Max is now president of the United States. As soon as they are spotted, the authorities are called, and this happens to be the same police force that Diana's friend, detective, works for. The detective shows, and the police pull up on them, drawing their weapons. Diana pleads with her friend, but her friend doesn't see Diana. There is this cloud of lies obscuring them as different people, wanted criminals. Some action plays out, yada yada yada. Eventually, instead of bringing everyone down, Diana discovers her strength is gone, and was only able to take out like 2 officers before being put in cuffs and arrested. At the same police station as before, Max and Apathy walk in to visit Diana and Steve. Apathy and Diana have a confrontation through the bars. God killer, eh? Apathy asks. I don't think we can call you that anymore without your strength, can we? This frustrates Diana. You took it from me? Apathy laughs. No, my dear. You gave it to me when you wished to know your way home. Diana struggles with the bars and, yelling at her, give it back to me. Apathy gets all up in her face. That's not a fair trade, is it? Diana struggles more with the bars. Apathy boinks on her nose. To think this pretty little thing took down Ares. He always was a sucker for a pretty face. She turns and walks out, leaving Max alone with the 2. Diana pleads with Max. See this reverse here? Max, don't do this. She's going to destroy everything. She's lying to you. Max, not seeing the reversal from earlier. Why would I do that? I have been given everything I've always wanted. Diana asks, at what cost? What did you lose for all of this? Max considers for a moment, turns and walks out. The detective walks in and is holding the lasso. Where did you get this? The detective asks. This belongs to Wonder Woman. Diana tells the detective to wrap it around her wrist so that the detective can see the truth. The detective does so. Diana, how come I didn't see you? Diana says the tired line, I'll explain later. Let's get out of here now. Blah, blah, blah. They get out of there, back at Diana's. She explains about the Dreamstone and how it took her strength from her. She doesn't know how she'll protect people now. Steve asks if there's a way that she can give her wish back. She then debates being a normal woman or saving humanity. This doesn't take too long as she's strong in her convictions. They come up with a plan, giving Diana temporary strength using the armor. She'll go in and wish she had never made her wish, which I know sounds a little bit better than renouncing. Giving your wish back is better, I think. Third act begins with the suiting up and showing up above the now heavily fortified White House in the invisible jet. Diana jumps out of the jet with the Golden Eagle armor. Action ensues. Diana takes out guards non-lethally, of course. She makes her way to the Oval Office, turned throne room. Witty repartee with Apathy and Max. Diana tosses a lasso to Max and grabs the Dreamstone. She gives back her wish and turns to Max and asks again what it cost him. Fight with Apathy, not a big explosive god fight because honestly, does anyone actually enjoy those? More of a well-choreographed fist fight between Apathy and Wonder Woman. She has to buy time for Max to see the truth. She knows that when he does, Steve will be gone and things will go back to normal. This will also rob Apathy of her powers and allow Diana to take her down. Just when Apathy seems to be getting the upper hand, Max runs over to the Dreamstone and gives his wishes back. He tearfully confesses to Diana and Apathy that he just wanted to make things right for his father. He didn't want to lose his family and his mother in the process. Apathy starts to look drained and starts withering. Diana takes her down. She dusts back to the stone. The denouement is Diana rehashing things with the detective and the detective asking if it was really what she wanted, if it was all worth it. And Diana thinks for a moment and says yes. She wanted to protect humanity, even if it means she can't have a life outside of that. The movie ends with her donning the tiara again. So what do you think? Would that have made the movie better? Did you think that WW84 was bad? If so, what do you think went wrong? How would you have fixed it? Should I do more of these rewrites? Let me know by joining the conversation. You can do so on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, www.patronsaintsofpopculture.org. If you like your Saints of Show shared, please let us know either in our DMs or comment on the prompt that will be posted on social media shortly. Please remember to review and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. In 2 weeks, I'll be talking about The Mandalorian Season 2. Until that time, be you. It's all you got and all you can be.
favor.